Hey, my little angels, come on in. It's late tonight, but come on in. I want to see you guys. I'm so happy to see you. Did I show you I got my nails done? Nice pink, very short, but I don't care. I can still tap. So, come on in and make yourself comfortable. We're in the family room today. So come on in. Everybody else is asleep. But that's okay. Their doors are shut. They won't hear us. Make yourselves comfortable. Somebody can sit in the recliner. It's really comfortable. You can sit over there, but you're going to be covered in dog hair. Just warning you. Wait, I see some new little angels. Hello, new little angels. Thank you for giving our channel a chance. If you like it, you can give it a thumbs up. You can share it. Comments are great. We love the comments here. When you comment, you interact with each other and with me because I love interacting with you. I love knowing what you think and I love your video suggestions. But when we interact like that, we connect in such a way that we take this great big world and make it smaller. And that's a really good thing, guys. And please hit that subscribe button below. YouTube is playing with my numbers again, so I could really use the ego boost. Thank you. And hello, my returning angels. I see you guys. Mwah. Thank you so much for always coming back, and please keep those comments coming. I absolutely love them, if you're comfortable. So, we're almost at midnight, which means it's almost Mother's Day. And I'm one of those people that's got my foot in two worlds. I'm happy it's Mother's Day because I'm a mom, and my daughter celebrates me. And I'm really upset that it's Mother's Day because I miss my mom. My mom passed away, oh my gosh, 7 years ago. 17. Yeah, 7 years ago this July. And I still miss her. And I'm telling you, I walk through the house sometimes and I just look up and say, you know, I get it now. I really do. So I thought for Mother's Day, and I don't know if I've told you these stories before, but I thought I would tell you about my mom. Because I can celebrate her, even though she's not here anymore. I'm still glad she was my mom. And I was glad, no matter what, how this video goes, I'm very glad she was my mom. So, my mom was born in 1939 in Nova Scotia. And she did not have a happy childhood. My mother was a child abuse survivor, mentally, physically, emotionally, and sexually. And it affected her entire life. And she got married at 16, had my brother at 17, and was divorced at 18. My mom was the coolest person, and she was so far ahead of her time with accepting of others. She married a gentleman, use that term loosely, who turned out to be gay, and he was in the Navy at the time. And back then in the 40s, that just wasn't gonna happen. So she said to him, we can't be together. She goes, but you need to be who you are, but I will keep your secret. And she did. And then when she was 18, she decided she needed something new, and she wanted something for my brother. She wanted him away from certain aspects of her family. So they moved to Ontario. And one by one, her family followed her out there, which was fine. I mean, you know, she struggled as a single parent. She met my dad when my brother was about 9 or 10, about 9. And they got together when he was 10. Like, they moved in together at 10. And she put up with a lot, you know. They had a rocky start, and then along came me. And my dad was in the Air Force and was stationed from Ontario to Alberta. Except my mother was due any day to give birth to me because I was early, like nearly 2 months early. And so he had to go to Alberta like literally the day after I was born. So she had to take a train with a 10-year-old and a 7-day-old baby from Ontario to Alberta, which she did. And we lived there till I was about 3. And then she had my brother and sister, the twins. And my brother was incredibly small when he was born, like barely 2 pounds. And he spent a lot of time in the hospital, and he required a lot of care when he came home. He turned out to be a great man, but he required a lot of care. And my mom put up with so much, but the one thing that she was determined to do was to break the cycle of abuse, which she did in a way, and as best she could. But if you've never been taught how to love, if you've never been taught the right way to parent, how are you supposed to know? And my mom is probably the best example of when she knew better, she did better. Unfortunately, she didn't know that much better when we were little. And we were a lot, okay? You got to think about it. She had a 3-year-old, 2 infants, one of which was high needs, and a 12 to 13-year-old going through puberty. Yeah, that's a lot to deal with. And did I mention my father had a drinking problem? So Dad quit drinking when I was about 4 or 5. And, you know, money was always tight. Oh my God, we were always tight. And I look back now, my mom always struggled with her weight too. And there were times where she wouldn't eat, and she always said she was dieting or fasting. It took me years to figure out it was because we didn't have enough food. I always like warmed up pizza or warmed up leftovers for breakfast because that was the only way we could have a hot meal. My mom used to open a can of soup for us to have in the morning because she believed that you had to have a hot meal in your tummy when you went to school. So yeah, growing up was struggled. My mom slept with a nightlight until the day she died. I'm not going to go in because I don't want to trigger anyone to things that happened to her as a child, but trust me on this one, it's the kind of stuff they make movies about, okay? And she broke the cycle in a way that none of us ever had to go to the hospital. None of us had broken bones. She never learned really how to talk to her kids. She never learned love languages. I think that was the biggest problem. But she kept growing. My mom was one of those people that kept learning and kept growing and kept evolving. And I loved her. She was funny. Oh my gosh, she had a good sense of humor. And she could cook. I'd give anything to taste her gravy again. I really would. And my mother had the best taste I've ever seen. I have never seen anyone that could set a table as well as my mom. She could turn anything into elegance. She could take thrift store finds and turn them into something beautiful. We knew how to set a table as young kids. We knew how to make antipasto plates as young kids, She taught all of us the basics of cooking when we were young because she was determined her kids would be self-reliant, and we did. And she had health issues. She had TB as a child and had to go to a sanatorium. Okay, she was in a sanatorium for tuberculosis, and it was the happiest time of her childhood. That tells you something right there. But it damaged her heart. So she had her first heart attack when she was 35. So there was always a health issue. I wouldn't say she was fragile, but we knew to be careful. And I'll never forget one of my favorite memories. When she had her heart attack, it was near Christmas. And in those days, you went into the hospital for a heart attack. You were there for weeks. And it was over Christmas. And she's like, I don't care what you say. I'm signing myself out if I have to. I am not missing Christmas with my kids. There's no way. So the doctors agreed to let her come home for 12 hours from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And she had to have bed rest. So my dad set a twin bed up in our living room. He had to do all of Christmas himself. And my uncle came over and he went to get my mom. And I remember, like it was yesterday, there were 3 Sesame Street dolls sitting on the bed. There was Cookie Monster, Oscar the Grouch, and Grover. My sister had Cookie Monster, my brother had Oscar the Grouch, and I had Grover. And we could play with those until they got home. And then we could open the gifts and everything. And I just remember sitting on the bed talking to her and showing her what I got for Christmas. And she had made us Christmas decorations. They had those little hospital, the pill cups that they give you in the hospital to take your pills. She had turned them upside down, put bells inside them, wrapped them in netting, and then attached them to a big velvet bow. I still have that Christmas decoration. I can't put it up anymore because it'll fall apart, but I still have it. I still have that. And that's a really good memory. I remember my wedding. We went to try on dresses. I hadn't planned it, and I really had no interest in getting a wedding dress. As far as I was concerned, I would buy a used one online. I really was not into it. Into the marriage, into the wedding, but the wedding dress, first of all, I didn't think I'd find one to fit me, I'll be honest. So near our house was a wedding dress store. So we just kind of walked in. First dress I tried on fit me, we bought it. And it was everything I said I wouldn't have in a wedding dress. Square-necked, short-sleeved, pearl tops, satin skirt, and a big train. I hated the train. But it had all buttons down. And the seamstress and I were talking, and she said, I can cut the train right off for you. And I'm like, oh God, that's perfect. Because I did not want a train. So when I came out to show, my mom's like, oh my gosh, look at that train. You look so elegant. I'm like, okay, I'm keeping the train. To this day, I hated the train. And they bought it for me, which I had not expected at all. So then we went looking for her dress. And my husband had actually seen it in a store, so I told her about it. And we went to see it, and she tried it on and looked so beautiful and so elegant. So I bought it for her. And I'll never forget, on my wedding day, she had to wear pantyhose and heels. And that wasn't my mom. My mom was not that kind of person. And I had paid to have her makeup done, and She wore a wig, so she didn't have to have her hair done. But she looked so nice, and I took her to get her nails done. I wanted her to have a full day of pampering, and she looked so pretty, but the pantyhose were driving her nuts. So I said to her, so take them off. And she goes, I'm at your wedding. I can't take off my pantyhose. I said, Mom, and I lifted up the bottom of my dress. I was standing there in bare feet. I said, I took my pantyhose off and my shoes like a long time ago. I said, just go in the bathroom and take them off. So she goes in and she comes out. She goes, Kim, there's like 4 women in there taking off their pantyhose. I said, see, I told you, nobody's going to know it's a long dress. And I always remember that. And the night before, I stayed at a hotel with her, and we watched My Big Fat Greek Wedding on the TV. And that was one of the nicest memories I have with her. Like, it really was. And I remember she came to stay with me after my daughter was born. Well, she came in okay, first of all, I whoever wanted to be in the room when I gave birth, I didn't care, but the hospital did. So my mom and my husband were in the room. And I said, Mom, hold my focus point for me. I had a little figurine, and I said, please. This was my mom. Okay. Focus on it. What the hell are you doing, Mom? Keep it still. I have to focus. And we had told her, the doctor had said, as long as people don't go behind me and go in and out. Well, of course, my mom had to run and tell my in-laws that the baby was born. And the doctor's like, I can't work like this. So my husband said, Mom, get out. He kicked my mother out of I'm like, oh my Lord, I'm going to deal with this. I know that. I didn't. I did not have to deal with it. My mother was made to be a grandmother. She loved her grandchildren. I think she saw them as maybe a second chance. She could love them, but it was free. There was no pressure on her, like when we were little. And man, she loved her grandchildren. Oh, she loved them so much. And I remember it was my daughter's 2nd birthday, and I got a phone call from my brother, and he said, I've had to take Mom to the hospital. She's having stomach pains. And I said, okay, do I need to come? I'll come. He said, no. It's the baby's birthday. Don't worry. I said, okay. Then I get a call. It's bad. It's really bad. I said, okay, what's going on? He said, she has a gangrenous gallbladder and they need to operate now, but she won't let them. So I said, what do you mean she won't let them? He goes, I don't know, Kim. She said, not until tomorrow. What? I said, let me talk to her. So I said, what's going on? And she goes, I can't, because my mom had a very bad heart. I told you that. So she was convinced if she went under anesthetic, she was going to die. Let me just take a sip. So she said, it's the baby's birthday. I cannot die on her birthday. I said, okay, I'll tell you what I'll do, Mom. If you die, I will put right on the tombstone, I will put it in the paper that you died the following day. Okay? She goes, you promise? I promise. So she agreed to have the surgery and she came out of it. Now, she did have a massive heart attack on the table, but she didn't die. But 3 weeks later, she had a triple bypass. But she came back from that. And yeah, being a grandmother was her favorite thing, and she was good at it. Oh my gosh, she was good at it. And another thing that will tell you a bit about my mom, she loved her kids. She just didn't always know how to show it, but she loved her kids. And when my dad was dying, my father died young. He was only 63 from cancer. And he died. He wanted to die at home. So he was in the back bedroom, and I was coming down the hall to see if they wanted something to eat or drink. And I heard her say to him, and my dad's name was Pat. But she always called him Pat or Patty. She's like, Patty, what can I do? What can I do? And he said, come with me. And I stopped dead. And I couldn't go forward. Obviously, I could not interrupt this conversation. I couldn't go backwards because I'm me and I wanted to know what was going to be said. And she said, oh, Patty, the kids. And then he said, I don't even know why I said that. He was on a lot of pain meds too. He goes, I know that. I don't know why I said that. My parents really loved each other. They really did. They were soulmates. But that says everything about her kids came first and her grandchildren came first, always. And when my oldest nephew got married, oh my God, you never saw someone so proud in your whole life as my mom. And when she held her great grandson, her heart just melted. I have a picture of her holding him for the first time. And the amount of love that you could see in her face. And I'll never forget, she went to therapy late in life, very late in life, and was diagnosed as clinically depressed and got on the right meds and was doing so much better. And we were talking about her past and everything. And she looked at me and she goes, you love me. And I said, yeah. She drove me crazy and we fought like cats and dogs most of the time, but yeah, I loved her. And she said, you know everything about me and you still love me. And there was such shock in her voice. Like, I didn't know I could be loved. And it just broke my heart. But I had to play it cool because if I made it into a big deal, it might affect how she felt. So I'm like, yeah, of course. She goes, just like that. I said, just like that, Mom. Now my mom, when she was diagnosed, she went in the hospital. We thought she had pneumonia and she had stage 4 lung cancer. And it was incredibly aggressive. It was the kind, it was like the smoker's kind, even though it had been 35, I think we figured out 35 or 38 years since she had had a cigarette. It just happened, right? Nothing was left unsaid. Nothing was left undone. She talked very openly about it. I promised her a beautiful death. I said we would have pictures of everybody all over the place, which we did. We would play all of her favorite music, which we did. And we would laugh. And my brother and I would tell stories to each other and start laughing all over stupid stuff, like stupid things. And we talked to her, and I held that woman's hand for 22 hours. I left the room for 5 minutes. And she died with my brother there. But even now, I feel her sometimes. I really do. And my daughter feels her too. And she said to me the other day, when she got accepted to her university, and she always called my mom Nanny. And she said, do you think Nanny would be proud of me? And I'm like, well, duh. I'm like, of course she would be. She'd be thrilled and over the moon. She goes, I know, I just wish I knew for sure. The next day we got her welcoming orientation notice, which was on April the 13th, which was my mother's birthday. I said, I think you have your answer, my dear. Thank you guys for listening and for letting me go on and on and on about my mom. And for those that are celebrating, happy Mother's Day to you. And for those of you that it's a hard day, I have posted a video for that. But as always, you guys, I love you. I value you. I honor you. And I'm so very, very glad that you were born.